Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? SteelTwins coming back at you with episode 2, part 1 of the SteelTwins podcast. Thanks for joining us. Today we're going to be talking about the Patriots and the Week 2 matchup in the home opener at Heinz Field for the Pittsburgh Steelers as they host the New England Patriots.
First things first, has anyone recovered from last Sunday? Because I know I haven't.
I still am.
I have not recovered from that Bengals overtime thriller.
Yeah.
I have not. And now we got to go back home for the home opener to face the New England Patriots, in which we have a ton of history, a lot of rough history against the Patriots.
Yeah, the Patriots, man, despite on how they've looked the past couple of years, it's still a heated rivalry between the two.
Right. You know, there's still a lot of history. There's good from our side, but, you know, there's more bad than good, as we know. You know, they were pretty much our kryptonite. We cannot get past them. We cannot get past Brady and Belichick to save our lives when it really mattered the most.
Yes. Unfortunately,
that was the case. A lot of bad games, some blowouts in the championships, a lot of hearts crushed, a lot of out-coaching. That's in the past. That unfortunately, those horrors will live with us forever, but that's in the past. When we look at this Patriots team now, they still have Belichick. They still have who I think is the greatest head coach of all time. But they're not as threatening no more. They are not as competent. They are not the New England Patriots that I know of as.
No, they're no longer a lock for the AFC. They are no longer threatening. They're no longer threatening. They're capable. They're a capable team. They're a capable fighting football team.
As long as Belichick is the head coach of them, I think they will remain competitive. However, they are, from a roster standpoint, not all there. New quarterback at Rome now is Mac Jones in his second year. And from what it seems like, from what we've heard in training camp, preseason, and what we saw a little bit last week, granted, it's only week 1. Week 1 does not determine the whole season. Seems like he might be having a sophomore slump to start off so far.
Yeah.
He had a nice rookie year last year. He pretty much exceeded many expectations. But in his second year, you know, he's got to take the full team, full-fledged way, as he is now their full leader. And to start off, it hasn't been good. They lost to the Miami Dolphins in a rivalry matchup. And now when you look at this Pats team, it's just there's not many impactful players. There's not many core guys that really come to mind, honestly. Like, they're not as stacked a receiver anymore. They don't really have a star receiver like they used to.
Yeah, and we're going to get into the offense of the Patriots right here. Obviously, like we stated, Mac Jones is the guy right now at quarterback. He hasn't really looked too stellar right now. I mean, let's give him more time. Maybe he does improve. Maybe he does get better.
Right.
Last week against Miami, he did sustain a back injury, but I think based on the screenings that they did when they examined him, he seems good to go. He seems fine.
X-rays came back negative. He should be good to go. Otherwise, of course, their backup, Brian Hoyer, would start, but I'm not anticipating that. I think we can anticipate Mac Jones to get the start in this one, but that is worthy of noting. He does have a back injury. We'll see how that goes throughout the week and how that could affect this matchup here.
But like you stated earlier, although Mac Jones is a quarterback, he doesn't have a true number one target.
No, the Pats haven't had a star receiver, honestly, since Julian Edelman retired.
Yeah.
Honestly. And even him wasn't – he was their number one, but it was more so not to take anything away from Edelman. That was more so Brady. Because Brady can make anybody. Yeah. We're seeing it still. I mean, 45 years old, and look what Brady's doing in Tampa Bay, man. But obviously, those days are past New England, and they have a new quarterback, like we said, and their receivers, I mean, the number one receiver is Jacoby Myers, who has great hands, but that's about it. Otherwise, their tight end core is the best part of their passing game, Hunter Henry and Johnny Smith, but those two haven't lived up to their contracts.
No, they have not lived up to their worth.
No, not whatsoever. Honestly, the best part of the Pats' offense, and I don't know when was the last time we could have said this, is the rushing attack.
Yes.
Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson.
Yep, their running backs are literally the best part of the offense. Those two guys can run the ball. They're guys that are capable of catching out the backfield and pass protection. They're the best part of the Patriots' offense.
But from what we saw last week and seeing how most of the front seven is healthy outside of the obvious TJ Watt, he will be out this game.
Yep.
The expectation, the thought is he will be out at least 4, 5, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That is if his injury is not as severe and it does not require surgery. That will be announced by the time this is uploaded. But that is the thought. that is the optimism, is that he will only be out 4 to 5, 6 weeks, and he could be back before the bye, or they could keep him out until after the bye. So we'll see about that. But TJ Watt will not be playing in this game. Thus, Malik Reed will get the start, and he was a huge improvement in what we had in terms of edge depth coming out of preseason and training camp. And, Malik Reed's a guy that has great experience of coming in for elite pass rushers and doing a very, very solid job for it. So to lean on him for this game and what I'm going to suspect at least 4 or 5 weeks, I think we can lean on Reed a lot, and thus Alex Highsmith is going to have to be our premier edge rusher. But he had a breakout game last week, 3 sacks. Now, the Pats' O-line on paper looks good, but their tackles have injury issues.
Yeah, I mean, their offensive line, the Patriots' offensive line, is not as stellar or as good as previous years, but it is still solid. It's still young. It's still young, and it's got a lot of potential down the road. It really does.
It really does. But
even with Watt out in this game, our front seven, I'm still confident in the front seven.
Yeah.
It's still good, but Watt is who makes it great.
Right, but I still trust the core guys we have in Hayward and even the additions we got back on the D-line, like Ogunjobi and Alawalu, who looked great this past Sunday against the run versus mix. And Alex Highsmith, like I said, had 3 sacks. It's going to be interesting to see what Malik Reed can do on the edge in his first start as a Steeler, right, with a new scenery for him. That's going to be fun, but he has a lot of starting experience, so I do trust Reed. I'm excited to see what he can do. So I do trust his defense to continue to make plays like they did last week. Defense was phenomenal all of last week. Unfortunately, they got tired in the second half, but that's due to the offense's fault. But I do trust the defense to stop the run and get to Mac Jones. We have to get to him. We got to get to the quarterback.
Yep,
because he plays scared still and forced mistakes like this defense did very often last week.
And if we force the ball into Mac Jones' hands, he hasn't really proved that he's ready for that type of role or that type of responsibility.
Right.
If we stop the run, if we limit Damian Harris, if we limit Ramondre Stevenson and force the ball into Jones' hands, I think, I'm more confident in the defense right there.
Which, even with Watt still out, I think we can all still attest to this defense having a very solid game.
Yeah, like you said.
Continuing their hot streak here after a week 1 performance.
Yeah, like you said, get pressure on Jones and try to get some turnovers.
But I just hope that if the defense can do very similar to what they did last week, which I'm sure they can, this offense can actually take advantage.
Yeah, that's the thing that the offense has to do. The offense must take advantage of what the defense gives them.
Now, a few notes about the offense. Najee Harris should be good to go. The injury he sustained last week was not a re-aggravation of his injury from preseason and training camp, so that's a good thing.
Yes.
And he should be good to go. He'll be practicing all week. We'll see what his participation is all week. But the belief is he should be good to go. Although I think we can anticipate a little bit more Jaylen Warren than what we saw last week.
Possibly.
We saw him pretty often. We could see him a little bit more just to kind of limit Najee and keep him pretty fresh and healthy and not try to aggravate any other injuries that he may have.
Yeah, having Najee regardless on this offense is such a positive because if Najee's not a part of this team, then the offense really doesn't have any resemblance. If you know what I mean.
As of not as of right now, the receivers need to step up as well. They need to find ways to get open. Mitch Trubisky definitely needs to play better in this game.
And going up against this Patriots defense, they lost a lot.
A lot. They are not the same pass defense as a few years ago.
Or just defense in general. They lost J.C. Jackson to the Chargers. Dante Hightower's still a free agent. Jamie Collins is still a free agent. They lost Kyle Van Noy. They lost a lot of freaking guys on defense. Their defense is not as stacked.
No.
Their front seven is not as good outside of Matthew Judon. That's the one guy. That is the one guy that I'm worried about on the front seven.
Right, but that's about it. Otherwise, they have quality players, but nothing on the level of what Judon is. Who is in my book, he's right on the line of overrated and underrated. There's some seasons or some games he looks really good, and then there's others where he doesn't. So. But that's it with their front seven. They have no linebackers. Their corners are still suspect. All they have in the secondary is a good safety core with Duggar and Jabril Peppers and Devin McCourty. That's about it.
That's literally it for the Patriots.
This is why we say they're not as threatening no more. They don't have as much as they used to in the past. They don't. So when I look at this Pats team heading into Pittsburgh, I'm a little bit more confident about a Steelers versus Patriots matchup, even though it is still Belichick versus Tomlin. And history shows Belichick outcoaches Tomlin. I mean, Belichick normally outcoaches a lot of coaches.
Yes.
But recently, I don't know about Bill anymore. Ever since Brady left, he's just not the same coach. Simple as that. He's not.
Now, when we think of Belichick and look at Belichick now compared to when Brady was in New England, he's not as starstruck or whatever.
No. So when I come into this game, when we have the home opener in Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, I'm very confident we can walk out with a dub.
We just gotta hope that the offense has to perform better, that they gotta play better. Hopefully they open up the playbook a little bit more. Target the middle of the field. I noticed that Deontay Johnson didn't really go around the middle of the field, or neither of our guys really did.
Not much of the offense, which was a concern last year because there was no targeting of the middle of the field. And according to some of the route sheets we saw on Twitter, there was nothing of that sort still. So
that's something.
There you go with the Matt Canada effect.
And that's something that we freaking hated last year. They hardly target the middle of the field. That's something that we like to see a little bit more of. Them try to do that with Najee more likely playing. Maybe try to run the ball effectively a little bit. Yeah. Maybe less of the jet sweeps with Chase Claypool.
Yeah.
Because he ran the ball 6 times last week,
last week was pretty much a rewatch of what we saw the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And it was infuriating. It really was. If I had to give them the benefit of the doubt, maybe they're trying to gel this team together before going all out. Okay? But that is really giving them the benefit of the doubt. Otherwise, with Canada and this offensive game plan, I still have no expectation, nor do I know what to expect. All I can expect is the same garbage. I hope not. Maybe they do better in this game. But I have no expectations. Yeah. I have no good expectations with this offense. I hope there's improvement. I hope we stretch the field a little bit. I hope we expand the ball around. I hope Mitch does better. I hope Canada has a better game.
Opens up the playbook a little bit more. Maybe the offensive line has another solid week. Last week, they actually looked pretty decent.
They did.
Hopefully, they have another decent week this week.
But perhaps this week we can actually try to get somewhat of a rushing game going to just open the offense a lot more.
Yeah.
Because that's the key here. You run the ball, you drain the clock a little bit, you tire out the defense, then you open the passing game. And then you take advantage of what the defense gives you because
yes.
I'm certain the defense is going to have a very solid game and they're going to give the offense good opportunities. They need to take advantage. But I'm expecting somewhat of a defensive game here in this one.
Yeah, I definitely see this game being heavily defensive, extremely close, somewhat similar to last week.
Right. I'm expecting a heartache because it's the Steelers. It's the Steelers' offense. Until they prove me otherwise, I'm expecting a low-scoring game, a heartache of some sort, a lot closer than it should be. But I do feel confident about a dub in the home opener.
Yes.
Typically, we do good in the home openers, and we need to get a dub here to start 2-0. Not a lot of people had the Steelers starting 2-0, so let's start 2-0, man. The Steelers versus Patriots, there's a lot of AFC history there. Both aren't the same team they used to be from prior years, but you know what? It's still Belichick versus Tomlin, so it should be a pretty interesting game. So I can't wait for the home opener. Steel Nation's going to be wild. It's going to be hot. It's going to be loud in Heinz Field for Sunday for the Pittsburgh home opener. I cannot wait. So let's get this dub. Let's start 2-0. Let's defeat the New England Patriots. Here we go, Steelers.
Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later.
Peace!